All right, folks, welcome in to the live Saturday nightcap edition of college basketball coast to coast for March the 8th, 2025. I am merely the somewhat capable host. I am hanging out on what is my birthday. So I am going to have a blast talking some college basketball. And you know what? I may go get a nightcap of another bite of birthday cake coming up. Great to be with you. Great to be with my wingman tonight for a few minutes, Tyler Jones, who is based in Dallas, Fort Worth. Tyler with Chat Sports and the Jones Report. He is also Rock Chalk Jayhawk, a Kansas alum. I want to talk some Big 12. I want to talk to him about that. How are you, my friend, on a Saturday night? I see that smile. The Jayhawks got a little swagger back. I see you smile. I don't see any Jayhawk apparel on, but nonetheless, you got to be feeling a little better about that. How you doing on a Saturday night here?
TJ, I am doing great. Happy birthday to you. The 30th birthday again. I don't know how this happens every single year for you, but nonetheless, yes, the vibes are good. Kansas with a big win. Hunter Dickinson plays well, ends the day with 33 points and 10 rebounds. Jayhawks in the regular season on a good note against a pretty decent Arizona team. It has been an eventful last couple of days in my neck of the woods, but hey, we're staying alive around here.
Yeah, there is no doubt. We've got a lot of excitement transpiring all over college basketball. Again, if you're seeing us, we're on the platforms of college basketball coast to coast on YouTube, as well as Facebook, Twitter, the CBB coast to coast Twitter feed. And also we are a podcast. So if you're hearing us after the fact, after the Saturday Night Live show on Apple, Spreaker, Spotify, wherever you get podcasts, come see what we look like on the social media platforms. And if you're seeing us, you can also take us in your AirPods, your earbuds, in your car with the Bluetooth, etc. College Basketball Coast to Coast is also a podcast on all the podcast outlets. So Tyler Jones hanging with me. A little later, Matt Zemek, the West Coast Bureau Chief, will be here. Great college basketball insider, historian, and mind. We look forward to hearing from him on all the subjects today. Tyler, why don't we cover a couple of them, and then we'll circle back to what your Jayhawks did. It is still reverberating in the South. What happened earlier this evening as Mark Sears and Alabama upset number 1 Auburn on a last-second overtime shot. A wild rematch. Auburn had won the game in Tuscaloosa. Alabama pays them back to avoid a 3-game losing streak to end the regular season. Both teams had chances to win at the end of regulation and botched it. Auburn had a tying 3, Tyler, by Janai Broome, the big man, who's a Player of the Year candidate, the Naismith and Wooden Award Player of the Year candidate, hit the big 3 to tie it, but then Sears won the game. Alabama wins. I know they're headed to the SEC tournament, but this was some great drama. This was some wild theater earlier this afternoon. Any thoughts here on Alabama getting that win and just how tough the SEC has been?
Big win for Bama, and to think, too, that Mark Sears, he kind of had a quiet day up until he had 7 points before he hit that game winner in overtime. And I was listening to Jimmy Dykes during the broadcast talk about that. Hey, if Alabama wins this game and has a strong finish to the year with the SEC tournament, they might work their way back to the 1 line when it's all said and done. And that's a team that has had arguably the toughest schedule in all of college basketball this season. They've lost 7 games, but they've won plenty of big games. I don't think we're talking enough about that Alabama Crimson Tide team. As good as Auburn has been, and rightfully so, Bama's right there. They hung with them. They beat them in their own building. They beat them in March. I think that was a big deal for Alabama to get that win. I still think Auburn's going to be okay. They haven't made too many mistakes this year. Broome's been fantastic, one of the best players in the country. As you mentioned, Bruce Pearl's got a good squad there. This was just a really good game that came down the wire. I don't necessarily think that means Bama's the better team, but they were the better team today.
Yeah, they certainly played better beginning to end in this game and end up getting the victory. Again, the final was 93-91 on the Sears-made shot. So Alabama gets the win in that SEC tournament. We keep saying this. It's just going to be amazing because you've got Florida at the top of it, Tennessee at the top of it, along with Alabama and Auburn. And then you've got a level that has Kentucky and Texas A&M, and Arkansas seems to have come to life now, and Ole Miss and Mississippi State and Vanderbilt and Missouri. It's going to be crazy in Nashville next week for championship week. So a little SEC talk there with the Alabama win. I want to segue to the game that just concluded a little while ago with Duke putting it on North Carolina. So it is a sweep for the Duke Blue Devils, a game that they were winning convincingly in the first half. Then Cooper Flagg, Tyler, I don't know how much you saw this, in foul trouble. Carolina makes the run to get the lead back, but then they play the second half, and Duke really played an outstanding second half. And you see on the screen, if you're with us here on the platforms of college basketball coast to coast, I put it up there as a topic. So Duke gets the sweep. Is that it for North Carolina now for the at-large hopes? They're now 1-11 in quad one games. For the last 2 weeks, everybody's talked they had to win this game. They didn't get it tonight. All right, what are your thoughts on the Duke win, and how bad did it damage Carolina, if not for good, as an at-large team?
Big win for Duke. Flagg, of course, got in that early foul trouble, had those 3 fouls in the first half, only had 5 points, and then they looked like a totally different team in the second half, the way that they stormed back and adjusted accordingly. I thought it was a very impressive win on the part of Duke to get the job done there, and that Duke team looks like they could win the whole thing when it's all said and done. I don't think anybody would be surprised about that. When it comes to Carolina, this was a game I don't feel like was necessarily a must-win game, but they needed to at least impress and build up some momentum for some optimism heading into next week. You lose this game by double digits at home. You let this game get away after having that winning streak you're on. I feel like you lose all that momentum that you had from just a few days ago heading into the ACC tournament here. Now, as weak as the ACC is, this isn't typically what we see in the ACC. I wouldn't be surprised if they still go on a run and find a way to win the ACC tournament next week. I think that's still within the realm of possibility, especially if somebody helps them out and potentially upsets Duke in the earlier rounds here. But that might be their only path at this point. And it's a real shame because the talent's there. You got guys like R.J. Davis and company on that squad, but Hubert Davis with another disappointing season with North Carolina, and I know that they just extended him recently, but I think the next couple days will be pretty telling. I still wouldn't rule out the possibility of him not returning next year if they don't make the tournament.
Yeah, it's interesting. It would be the second time in 3 years they don't make the tournament. Remember, they were a number 1 seed last year, but now have fallen off. Not enough low post play and low post help. Really balanced night from Duke. Their freshmen do not play like freshmen. Kneppel had 17 in the game to go along with 3 assists. Cooper Flagg, 15 points, 9 rebounds, 6 assists, 4 blocks despite the foul trouble. Who else? Tyrese Proctor, back from the knee injury, had 16 in the game. Sion James had 16. Balance attack. Duke looks like the real deal. Just quick comment. Duke looks like the real deal as a Final Four team. I mean, they are rolling, don't they?
Yeah, they certainly look the part, and they look like a complete team. I know we spend so much attention on Cooper Flagg, and rightfully so, but, I mean, I saw this team in person several weeks ago against SMU, and I was impressed with Sion James. He was the guy that caught my attention. You look at just the depth that they have, that they can play 7, 8 deep, which you go to these rotations when it comes to tournament, teams are shortening the rotation here. I think that they already feel like that they're in full form for this NCAA tournament. If the tournament started tomorrow, I think this Duke team would be ready to go. They're in really good shape. I think John Shire, there was some question marks about, okay, can he get over the hump and be that right guy? But to me, it kind of reminds me of the same thing that we asked about Danny Hurley a couple years ago. And, after not winning a single NCAA tournament game, he has lost an NCAA tournament game. So to me, I don't read too much into that with John Shire. I think he's got a team that can win a championship here, and I think that he's capable of getting the job done.
With those freshmen, Malawach is a lottery pick from the South Sudan as well as a freshman. They've put it together. And at this point, you can make the argument nobody's a freshman after you've played 25, 27, 30 games headed to the postseason. Let's see what Duke has down the stretch. Again, Tyler Jones hanging with me. I'm TJ Reeves. If you're just popping on the social media platforms, we're on YouTube, Facebook, the CBB Coast to Coast Twitter handle as well. We are live tonight for the Saturday Nightcap. If you're only hearing us in podcast form, again, after the fact, you can come see what we look like as well. But we're breaking down this final regular season Saturday for the power conferences. We've got conference tournaments going on everywhere. Tyler, it's going to be a championship week. It already really is. Some of the smaller conferences have automatic bids going out today, tomorrow, and Monday, Tuesday. But again, we're previewing all of it. We're recapping today and previewing all of it on college basketball coast-to-coast platforms and on the pod feed. All right, so let's get back. We circle back to your Jayhawks, who got the win today. They did come to life. There's no question. On senior day, Hunter Dickinson, the big game. Zeke Mayo was back bombing three-pointers. How fixed is Kansas off this single win over Arizona? I know you were lamenting, as many others were, the struggles as of late. How fixed, how right did this get them before the Big 12 tournament? What do you think?
Oh, it's way too early to call this team fixed by any stretch of the imagination. I'm not reading into one game against beating an Arizona team that's had their fair share of problems. But with that said, credit where credit's due. Hunter Dickinson was fantastic. 33 points, 10 rebounds, double-double for him. Zeke Mayo was really good with 20 points. KJ Adams with 12 and 8. All-around good team performance. I know most of the country didn't get to see the first half of the game because of the overtime finish of the Auburn-Alabama game, but this Kansas team looked like that they were dialed in from the beginning of this one. And I was listening to Bill Self talk after the game, and he said, hey, our path going forward, we are going to live and die by Hunter Dickinson, that he is going to be the path that takes us as far as we want to go. And that is some dangerous territory because we've seen when Hunter Dickinson is on and when this team is on, they can compete with anybody in the country and they can beat anybody when they are on. But when they're off, they are off. And this team doesn't necessarily have the chemistry. There's obviously a lot of talent. They're just as talented as any team in the country, but they don't always play together well. And so I've been waiting for a turning point in the season where we say, all right, that's the moment that this team is all dialed in, all locked in on the same page. I don't know if that was today. I have plenty of reason based on what I've seen the last 2 months to think that today was an anomaly. I'm not going to get too excited over this. Let's see what they do in the Big 12 tournament over the next couple of days. If they win the Big 12 tournament, TJ, then I'll be bought back in.
Right.
If they win the Big 12 tournament, then I'm going to have my doubts.
I don't know that they can win the Big 12 tournament, but let me pose it this way. If you see another impressive win or maybe two in Kansas City, that's got to give you more confidence. Just like if you see a quick exit on the first game, you're thinking, man, this could be bang, bang, lose right away in the Big 12 tournament, lose right away on the first game of the NCAA tournament. That's me saying that. What do you think about if they can win a significant game, maybe two? Is that another sign that they've righted some things?
I think it could be a sign, but also I think you got to think about the standard that's there for Kansas. The standard is the expectation is Final Four, national championship,
right.
bust. And sure, they could win a tournament game or two, build up some momentum. Maybe that turns into a Sweet 16 run, or maybe that turns into Elite 8 run. But I'm still not feeling like, okay, you did what you needed to do, that you accomplished anything. I don't feel like this team accomplishes anything unless they get to the Final Four. That doesn't seem to be on the radar right now. You look at the Big 12 tournament bracket, you bring that up here, and this Kansas team, we'll see how things shake out tonight, but because we still have more games. Got BYU, Utah tonight, among others. Texas Tech and Arizona State's wrapping up. They're looking at being, the 6, 7 seed in the Big 12 tournament. You should win that opening round game. Then you potentially play Arizona or Texas Tech. You could win that. All of a sudden, you're in the semis. Maybe you get a couple good wins there. But I've always been of the belief, TJ, when it comes to these conference tournaments, if you're a team that's already locked in, like a Kansas, the best point of action heading into championship week, either you win the whole thing and you ride that momentum into the next week,
right,
or you lose early and enjoy the week off before you begin the NCAA tournament. So that's how I feel, even with this Kansas team. As much as they've struggled, I want them to either win the whole thing or I want them to get out early and enjoy the week off.
I understand. And again, Houston is the one, and Kansas played Houston tough, even though it was a loss and a sweep. So let's see what the Big 12 looks like. Tyler's with me for a few more moments. Yeah, go ahead.
About the Big 12 tournament. I know it's in Kansas City, and people think, oh, great, that's right in Kansas's backyard. They will not have the home court advantage compared to Iowa State. If there's a matchup where they see Iowa State fans, historically speaking, they intentionally schedule spring break in the state of Iowa during this week. The entire state of Iowa travels to Kansas City and plans their spring break vacations there, and they will outnumber. They will outdraw KU if they somehow get a head-to-head matchup. Iowa State will have a bigger presence than Kansas. We saw a couple of years ago in the Big 12 championship game where Iowa State fans outnumbered KU fans about 2-1 just because of that trip.
Just real quick, BYU is playing tonight with Utah. BYU, I know I'm bringing up a bad memory, already whacked Kansas. BYU has a win at Arizona. They can score. Watch out for them now in the mix in the Big 12, along with Iowa State, Houston, Texas Tech, those teams. It'll be fascinating to watch all of it unfold. My friend, thank you. I appreciate the help here on a Saturday night. Rock Chalk. They did well for tonight. Let's see what it means for championship week. You and I can't wait for championship week, the NCAA tournament, and eventually the road meanders to San Antonio, the Alamo City, and the Final Four. Looking forward to being there with you as well for college basketball coast-to-coast coverage. We'll get there eventually.
We will have a great time in San Antonio. I already saw that we got the reservation for the glorious La Quinta, so can't wait for that. Should be a lot of fun, but so much good basketball over the next couple of days ahead. And I'm looking forward, TJ. I got to plug this real quick. Tomorrow, my beloved Missouri Valley Conference Championship.
Yes.
Tomorrow afternoon on CBS. Bradley and Drake. Here's a test of my mid-major knowledge real quick. Ben McCollum, name to watch. Doing an incredible job at Drake. His first season there was at Northwest Missouri State. Won a lot of national titles with that program there, and he brought over about 5 to 7 guys from that squad.
Yes,
to break, and they had a fantastic regular season. I think they're going to beat Bradley tomorrow and win the Missouri Valley tournament. That's a sneaky team to watch in the Big Dance, and that's a coach to keep an eye on for potentially one of these bigger jobs when we get the coaching carousel. Again,
that game will be national TV on CBS tomorrow, 1 versus 2. I've got it up on the screen here on College Basketball Coast to Coast. Drake and Bradley for an automatic bid. You wonder if Drake has done enough to get an at-large spot if they don't win that game. Don't leave it in the hands of the committee, Tyler, as we know. Win the game. Get the automatic bid if you're Drake for this on Sunday. So a good plug. And McCollum might be a guy in the mix for the Indiana job or a bigger job. Stay tuned on that. All good stuff.
I'm keeping tabs on, I got to say this quietly. I'm keeping tabs on McCollum for whenever Bill leaves. Potentially going to Lawrence.
If Bill Self
are next, we'll see.
You've been saying this, and a lot of the Kansas fans and media, they wonder right now, is he going to retire? Is he going to go do TV? Is he going to go do something else? You and I have been talking about that. Let's see what Self does. Yeah, it could go to the San Antonio Spurs in the NBA. Stay tuned on what Self does. But, yeah, Drake Bradley tomorrow will be interesting. Tyler Jones, thank you, my friend. I appreciate it.
Happy birthday. Him. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Follow him at Tyler Jones Live. The Jones Report is the podcast. Chat Sports as well on the YouTube. I love it. Be well, my friend. I appreciate you.
Thank you, sir.
There goes Tyler Jones with us. By the way, as we do this live on College Basketball Coast to Coast, some of you are already weighing in. Thanks to Charlie, who says, great show. You both sound really good together. Tyler and me. I don't know if that's a family member. There. I think it might be a family member for Tyler Jones. Our buddy Peter Blake checks in and says, happy birthday to the great TJ Reeves. Thank you, Peter Blake, for tonight. Piece of birthday cake might await him as a leftover piece of birthday cake. By the way, on College Basketball Coast to Coast, we are brought to you in part by our friends at Go Sleeves. They are official sponsors of our March coverage. These kinesiology sleeves are fantastic for the knees, the elbows, the calves. The kinesiology technology does great for 2 things, inflammation and recovery. It helps out the joints with blood flow. It helps out the tendons, the ligaments, etc., and the knee, the elbow. If you are a weekend warrior, a tennis player, a jogger, a biker, you're going to see on the video, if you're with us on the video, not just on podcast, people in action with these sleeves around the knees, the elbows, if they're biking, playing pickleball, weekend warrior basketball, running, golf, any of it. The sleeves, mobility for all. Yes, kinesiology technology. It is go time with Go Sleeves. We love them as a sponsor with us. Get yourselves some Go Sleeves, and a reminder as well that we have a promo code for you. That's GoSleeves.com/TJ. You can save some on the Go Sleeves for the elbows, the knees, the calves. They're great sponsors. Darren Lancaster and his folks are huge college basketball fans. This is their time of the year in March. We're going to get them back on involved with us on College Basketball Coast to Coast with a live Q&A interview to tell you more about Go Sleeves and their therapeutic products to help you with the increased blood flow, the inflammation, the recovery time. It is go time with Go Sleeves. Promo code TJ to make a discount savings at GoSleeves.com, promo code TJ. Let's rock on this Saturday night, talking over these different subjects. Let's do check in with the West Coast Bureau Chief. I love me some Matt Zemek on College Basketball Coast to Coast. He's back aboard. My friend, I don't know if I can ship the birthday cake to you in the Valley of the Sun out in Arizona and get it to you. Just know I'm thinking of you while we're celebrating and knocking around the Reeves house. How are you? Happy Saturday. Championship week is here with the automatic bids going out this weekend and next week. Final regular season weekend for the Power Five. How are you on this Saturday?
Well, I feel happy on your birthday weekend that Memphis gave you an outright conference championship to celebrate. I like
that. I've got the Memphis shirt on. We've got the Memphis hat on for the Tigers. First one since 2013. It's been a little dry, but Penny Hardaway, PJ Haggerty, Dane Danger, and the Memphis Tigers end up winning the American Conference. Now, how far are they going to go? Stay tuned, but they win the regular season. They go to the conference tournament, and let's see what happens with Memphis. A lot of big out-of-conference wins for Memphis. We'll see. Any other thoughts?
A real birthday gift, like an AAC title that's like, a nickel under the pillow or something like that the Tooth Fairy would give, but a real birthday gift, like we're talking a several $100 primo gift, would be a Sweet 16. Like that would send Memphis back to the elite tier in college basketball, which I know, going back to Larry Finch and Dana Kirk and Mid-South Coliseum.
There we go.
That would make you feel really good. So
just get out of the
real birthday present.
They have not gotten out of the first weekend since John Calipari's final year back in 2009 before he took the Kentucky job. It has been a while. And Penny Hardaway has and Penny Hardaway has one NCAA tournament win, in his tenure. Let's see if they can get another one. But yes, I do have the Memphis hat on for tonight. All right, so I want to kick it around with you on several subjects. Let's go back to what I was talking about with Tyler. Thoughts on the Alabama last-second win? Mark Sears with the shot in overtime. Welcome to March, my friend, with the Alabama win. Your thoughts on what we saw there earlier tonight?
Well, this battle for number one seeds, this is one of the best battles for number one seeds that I've ever seen, because you're seeing Florida and Tennessee and Alabama just trading punches with Houston over here on the side, taking care of business. Like, this is not a case where teams are backing into a one seed. This is where teams are playing elite games, throwing haymakers. They're beating each other up, and they're in the hunt. And so, like at the SEC tournament with Alabama beating Auburn today, like it's still very up in the air. It's still very finely poised. The three SEC teams in Houston, so 4 teams total, battling for 2 number one seeds, with Auburn and Duke locks for the top 2 1 seeds. And here's the point of focus for everyone watching here at College Basketball Coast to Coast. The real prize is not so much getting the 1 seed, it's avoiding Duke's region as the 2. Now, obviously, if you're a 1 in the Midwest or the West, you will avoid Duke. But really, it's just about avoiding Duke, because obviously, if you're an SEC team, if you're Tennessee, Bama, Florida, and you're jockeying for position, you can't be the 2 seed in Auburn's region. So if you don't get a 1 seed, that means there is a high probability you get sent to Duke's region as the 2. So you want to avoid that. So Tennessee, Auburn, or Tennessee, Alabama, Florida, really, you don't want to be that 3rd team. You want to be top 2 out of those 3, because that would increase the chances that you go to the Midwest as the 1, or you go to the West. And I think with the West region, TJ, at this point, it's going to be Houston and an SEC team. And Does it really matter whether Houston's the one and the SEC team's the two, or Houston's the two and the SEC team's the one? Doesn't really matter. And I think if you're an SEC team right now and someone would tell you, hey, you're going to be the two in the West with Houston, I don't think you'd get much of a complaint because you're not in Auburn's region. You're not in Duke's region. It's not as though Houston's a piece of cake, but Auburn and Duke have been at a higher level than everyone else this season.
I really believe right now it is Auburn, it is Duke, and it is Houston. They're all vying for the fourth spot, whether it's an SEC team or I will include Michigan State with the run that they have been on at the end of the year, how powerful the Big Ten is. If the Big Ten ends up getting 11 teams in the NCAA tournament and Michigan State has won the regular season title, and let's say they run the table, they're going to have to, under my scenario, and win the Big Ten tournament coming up in Indianapolis, that's a strong argument to be the final number one team because you will have done something that the other SEC teams did not do under my theory, which is did not win the regular season. And let's say Auburn goes on to win the conference tournament. Now Michigan State's done something that Alabama, Tennessee, Florida, any of those other teams, Kentucky didn't do. I think there's an argument to be made there. A lot of basketball to be played, but an argument to be made there about the one seeds. Just say something again about Sears. He was in the Final Four a year ago, led Alabama to the Final Four. We were there in Phoenix as they made it there. He's the hero right now tonight in Alabama for that last second shot at Auburn. Forever, he's going to be known for that last second shot at Auburn. Say something about him, please.
Yeah, when you and I covered the Final Four in Glendale last year, obviously we knew going in it was likely to be the UConn Invitational. UConn historically great, and UConn did win that second national semifinal against Alabama by a double-digit margin. But we all remembered from that game, no fears Mark Sears, that he was the most fearless Alabama player on the court, didn't shrink from the moment. He belonged on that court with mighty UConn. So like that to me established him as a big game baller. And so this is a continuation of what we saw at the Final Four. When Mark Sears was a dude then, he's still a dude now. And like Alabama, when it gets into the pressure cooker of the NCAA tournament, it's going to be a situation where, we have this guy and you don't. And so that is Nate Oates' big poker chip going into March Madness.
Certainly, they are sloppy at times. They're not great defensively, but my God, are they explosive? They get to the rim a ton. They offensive rebound. They don't just shoot threes. It'll be fun to watch what happens with Alabama in this postseason. All right, let's go back to the Duke premise. You've already talked about Duke. They've swept North Carolina tonight. We've been talking about that on College Basketball Coast to Coast. The second part of this is what I want your feeling on what we see on the screen. Are the Tar Heels done North Carolina at large right now in your mind? What do you think?
We could say they're done. At the very least, folks, North Carolina has to make the ACC tournament final for this to be any sort of conversation at all. Quarters, semis, no. You need to get to the final. As we record this show, the ACC tournament bracket is not yet official, right, or at least to the extent that I'm aware. So until we see the bracket, if let's say North Carolina has the chance to play Duke in the semis, so that offers a potential play your way in opportunity. But of course, Carolina would have to get to the semis first, and North Carolina might have to play Duke in the quarters. North Carolina needs to get to the ACC final for this to be a real conversation. One quad one win. Come on, that is thin soup. North Carolina will have to make a very, very deep run next week.
All right, so that leads to an Arkansas win early today over Mississippi State in the final seconds, and Indiana comeback win at home over Ohio State. So on the bubble, have Arkansas and Indiana done enough where North Carolina has not? In your mind, have the Calipari Hogs and Mike Woodson, who's already resigned, Hoosiers, have they done enough right now? Matt, what do you think?
All right, well, first, let's just compare the two teams together. Arkansas is above Indiana on the seed list and relative to the cut line. That's pretty clear cut because collecting SEC wins, against those opponents, Arkansas is getting more of a boost, more of a bump for winning those games than what Indiana is doing. And Indiana did lose the Oregon game earlier this week. And Indiana does play Oregon in its first Big Ten tournament game.
Interesting.
So I think Arkansas is very likely in. That would be my characterization. Not an absolute lock, but really, really close. And Arkansas will be helped by, if it loses in the first round of the SEC tournament, it's losing to a really good team, probably. Right. So like that's going to offer no real negative downward pull in terms of the resume. So Arkansas is very likely in. I don't want to say a lock. Like win one SEC tournament game, and then Arkansas is an absolute lock. But very likely in. Go ahead.
While we're on Arkansas, they have the win at Kentucky, which is it's a large win. They have wins over Missouri and now today over Mississippi State, who are going to be tournament teams, who are top 30, 35 teams in the net themselves. That's a stronger argument on the face right there on North Carolina before we ever get to conference tournaments. I'm just saying. Now for Indiana, let's segue to them. They have a win at Michigan State, by the way, down the stretch. They have beaten Purdue recently. They have now beaten Ohio State, another bubble team that they're battling today. Compare that to North Carolina. Segue to Indiana. Compare that to North Carolina, if you would.
Yeah, North Carolina just has that one quad one win. North Carolina didn't get enough done in Maui. North Carolina and Michigan State went to overtime in Maui back in November. Imagine if North Carolina had been able to finish off that win, but it didn't. And that's a great reminder, TJ. Right. November matters. November matters. Having that result.
By the way, these guys beat Michigan State in Maui. That does matter for their resume. And UConn as well. But North Carolina had the same opportunity to beat Michigan State and did not. And one more thing we need to clarify. I'm not just bashing North Carolina here. I didn't go to Duke. The North Carolina athletic director, Bubba Cunningham's the head of the selection committee, by the way. He's supposed to be out of the room when they discuss it, but as I often say, I'm going to say it again here on College Basketball Coast to Coast, he comes back in the room and sits back down, and they're not in the tournament, and they're all looking at him, and he's looking at them, and they're looking at him while they're doing these votes and discussing them. Of course, it's human beings. That's going to matter. But back to it. North Carolina repeatedly had chances to win games that they have not won, including in the ACC. And this close loss stuff, stop it. Whether it's Joe Lunardi on ESPN, I don't care who it is, somebody on the ACC network trying to spin it for them, the committee does not look at close losses. They don't value close losses. Oh, you lost to a tough team and you lost close. None of that matters. None of that matters on losing close. That's why Indiana getting 2 or 3 of these wins late in the year matters more than North Carolina in my mind. Wrap it up with a final point on that, and then I want to move on, Matt.
Yeah, well, so the ACC was so weak this year that, and hey, like Louisville and Clemson had great seasons, and credit to them, credit to Pat Kelsey and Brad Brownell. But Louisville and Clemson are not good enough to go 18-2 in 20 ACC league games unless the rest of the conference is really bad. And so that's why the ACC is on track to be a 3-bid league. It's because SMU and North Carolina, like North Carolina is very much part of this. SMU, North Carolina, Wake, like they all had their shots, not just at Duke, but at Louisville and Clemson. Just win one of those games against Louisville or Clemson, and they couldn't do it. North Carolina couldn't do it. So, yeah, really, like you had so many teams to fatten up on in a really bad ACC. You lost some games to the middle and lower tiers, and then you don't beat Louisville and Clemson. Come on, this is not a debate.
And again, the 2 games that they played with Louisville at Louisville and Clemson at Clemson, they lost them both, as you just mentioned. They also lost the 2 games to Duke down the stretch of the season. So not enough there for North Carolina.
0-4 in the most important games in your league.
You got it. And so it does seem like we're beating up on North Carolina a little bit here. We'll see. By the way, the Texas-Oklahoma game is going on while we are live tonight here as part of the coverage on College Basketball Coast to Coast. Both of those teams need that. The game is in Austin. I'm looking to see if the game has actually gone final or not as of yet. They were tied early on in the second half. Now Oklahoma leads in the final minute, Matt Zimick, at Texas. That would be a damaging loss for Texas. They lead by 4 in the final minute. Again, if you're listening on podcast, you know that outcome. I may be able to give that outcome before we're done. There's another bubble situation. What do you call it? Double, rubble, bubble, trouble for Oklahoma and Texas?
You got it. The two-way bubble game. You know your stuff. You've listened to me.
So. Very much so.
And so just to quickly hit on that, the loser needs 2 wins at the SEC tournament to have a chance. So, and given how tough the SEC is, not very likely of the loser getting 2 wins next week. And the winner is not guaranteed to be in, but probably needs 1 more win.
But that's because you're in comparison with Indiana and Arkansas and a Drake if they don't win the Missouri Valley and this at-large team, that at-large team. Let's say Memphis for some reason doesn't win the American Conference. You're in comparison with all of these different teams at large. How do you stack up for Oklahoma or for Texas? You need more wins at the end. Since I have you here, and we love talking Western basketball, New Mexico did wrap up the Mountain West Championship. The argument can be made they're the best team in the West. They won the regular season. They won it outright, including the win over UNLV on Friday night. They cut the nets down for Richard Pitino's team. What are your thoughts? Are they the most dangerous Western team? I know you've got a St. Mary's out of the WCC with Gonzaga. I know you've got an Oregon and a UCLA that are in the Big Ten now. Is this what's your read on New Mexico, the Lobos, with Donovan Dent, with the big man Nelly Jr. Joseph? What is your read on New Mexico?
Yeah, Donovan Dent's another one of those guys where we have him and you don't, and that might make the difference in a game. He's just terrific. The other thing about New Mexico, last year the Lobos were a sieve on defense. This year they really tightened up their defense. They got a lot more disciplined at that end of the floor. Credit to Richard Pitino for just getting a little more toughness into his team. I'd like to see the matchups and let's talk about the Mountain West while we're talking about New Mexico. Mountain West might get only 3 teams in, and notably, and we're recording this show while San Diego State is hosting Nevada. So if you are watching this on Sunday morning, listening to us on Sunday morning, you will know the result of that game. If San Diego State loses to Nevada, then the San Diego State-Boise State Mountain West quarterfinal, which is locked in, that's the 4 versus 5 game. That is a double rubble bubble trouble tournament special.
Yes.
And losers out, winner probably in. That, just a classic quarterfinal bubble elimination game between Boise State and San Diego State if San Diego State loses to Nevada. Now, if San Diego State beats Nevada, it could be a situation where San Diego State might be in regardless, but Boise State, after losing to Colorado State on Friday night at home, Boise State must beat San Diego State to get in. Must. That is non-negotiable. Zero debate on that point. And the final thing about the Mountain West, Colorado State, which just beat Boise State, as we mentioned, Colorado State's the 2 seed. Colorado State's not an at-large team because it did nothing in the non-con, but 2 seed, playing great, been on a roll the last 10 games. That could be a bid stealer in the Mountain West to shrink the bubble poll by 1 game. Watch out for Colorado State winning the Mountain West tournament.
And just like New Mexico did last year, winning 4 games in 4 nights, where the committee talked about they were not going to be in had they not won the automatic bid and the championship game against San Diego State. I got a chance to call that title game on TuneIn last year with our buddy TC Martin as the Lobos finished off 4 wins in 4 days, beating 3 NCAA tournament teams right in a row to be able to do it. You never know. You never know in March. But New Mexico is clearly the hunted. Now, a year later, they are the top team in the Mountain West. I didn't get the answer out of you. Are they the most dangerous Western team, or would you still say Oregon or UCLA, maybe BYU, who's playing tonight, is more dangerous than New Mexico? What would you say?
I don't see a lot of separation, and I would just like to look at the brackets on Selection Sunday. I mean, if you gave me a comparison of New Mexico versus St. Mary's, I'd go with St. Mary's because Randy Bennett is just an amazing game plan coach. He will look at your film and he will break you down. I think I've said it before. He's like Liam Neeson. I will find you and I will hunt you down. That's Randy Bennett. That's Randy Bennett. He finds your weakness.
What's the line? What's the other line? I'm a man of a certain skill set. Yes, Randy Bennett, defense, breaking down film. Yes,
that's Randy Bennett. Like Randy Bennett has undressed Mark Few and Gonzaga the last 2 years, and he's won I think it's 49 out of 54 West Coast Conference games. Like he's a maniac. And one thing, I cover USC women's basketball at Trojans Wire. Beth Burns, the elite defensive coordinator for this USC women's basketball machine, she and Randy Bennett are close friends. So it's not surprising when I watch St. Mary's play D in the men's game, and I watch USC play defense in the women's game. Wow, I can tell. You can see Randy Bennett, Beth Burns, both just X and O masters on defense.
All right, so stay tuned in the West. BYU is a very interesting wild card for the Big 12 tournament. Again, they're playing Utah tonight at home. They've got some wins late in the year. This is what's great about March, so many different ways. 2 weeks ago, BYU was maybe a bubble team. They have won some serious games down the stretch at Arizona, Kansas at home, on down the list. Stay tuned about Brigham Young. And maybe they're going to be there. They don't play a lot of defense, but maybe they're going to be dangerous as well. Hey, before I let Matt Zimick go here on College Basketball Coast to Coast, what about what we just talked about, or what you just alluded to, USC and UCLA's women, part 3, right, for the Big Ten title coming Sunday afternoon. Juju Watkins. You write for TrojansWire.com. The USA Today family of websites. The record should reflect you also are looking over the UCLA Wire website as well. This will be interesting with Lauren Betts, right, in UCLA against USC for the Big Ten title. How strange is that to say in women's basketball in their first year there? It's not even a traditional Big Ten team they're going to be playing, either one of them, for the title. This will be fascinating. You'll be writing all about it. Plug away one more time because it's on national TV, right, tomorrow as well. Yeah,
4:30 Eastern, 1:30 Pacific on CBS.
Wow.
30-2 UCLA, 29-2 USC. They've dominated the Big Ten all year long. They both beat everyone else in the Big Ten except for one game. USC lost to Iowa. They beat everyone else in the conference. They both won their 2 games at the Big Ten tournament. So it's a heavyweight matchup. If UCLA beats USC, both of the Los Angeles schools will be number 1 seeds at the women's NCAA tournament. So Los Angeles is the capital of the Big Ten in women's basketball. It's the Citadel, it's the fortress, just total ownership in year 1. And it's not likely to change soon because Lauren Betts has said she's coming back next year. Juju will be back next year. Just LA domination. It's amazing to see just 2 heavyweight teams meeting on the mountaintop. And we love this about sports, right? We love when the rivalries entrench themselves at the top. Every meaningful game, it's always meaningful when the 2 rivals play, not just for them, but on a national scale that can only generate more interest in the women's game.
And Juju's been phenomenal in the 2 games head-to-head in the Crosstown Showdown. Will it show up again here on the neutral floor? And by the way, if you're wondering, because I've done the research, Matt knows this, Juju Watkins cannot turn pro to the WNBA because their 2 criteria are 3 years out of high school, which she is not, and or you've got to be 22 years old at least the year of the draft, the year of this draft. She's not 22 to go in the draft later on in the spring, summer. So she's back at USC for another year, which I know their fans are going to be thrilled with. She's a fantastic college player. So check that game out on Sunday, and Matt and company will be writing all about it. One final thought from you. Anything else that we didn't cover before we scoot along and we get out of here on College Basketball Coast to Coast? Matt Zimick, anything else? Or are we good?
Yeah, let's just stop and realize what we're about to see at the NCAA tournament. It looks like, with all the bubble results coming in today, that the SEC will get at least 13 teams into the field because Georgia is also playing its way in with the win over Florida, the win at South Carolina, and today's win over Vanderbilt. And Vanderbilt's an NCAA tournament team. So it's looking like 13-bid SEC, and then it's looking like 3-bid ACC. Can you possibly imagine a world? Imagine anyone ever at any point in human history telling you, hey, the SEC is going to get 10 more NCAA tournament bids than the ACC. Absolute mind-blowing stunner for the 2025 NCAA field.
And it may not be 13, it may only be 12, but that would still be the record. 11
Nine.
is the record.
Nine more.
Right. 11 is the record by the Big East in 2013, I think it is. 11 is the record. The Big Ten might end up with 11 teams. How about the ACC added 3 more schools, Stanford, Cal, and SMU to the conference? They have an 18-team conference, and they're only going to get 3 teams in the NCAA tournament. That's mind-blowing in and of itself. The ACC hasn't had as few as 4 teams in the NCAA tournament since 2014. That's the last time they had only 4. They have had only 3 in the recent. That was 2001 in this century. They had only 3 that year. So I just thought I would point that out. Duke, by the way, won the national title in 2001 with 3 teams from the ACC making it to the NCAA tournament. Only 3 out of 18 teams. That's crazy.
So that means 15 ACC schools failed to make the NCAA tournament. Like, that's
Incredible.
just hard to wrap the mind around a number like that. And it underscores, hey, ACC schools, you need to invest in your NIL, and you also need to hire better coaches. And, Boston College retaining Earl Grant. Well, I guess Boston College is happy to accept mediocrity. And I wonder what Al Skinner thinks about Boston College's decision to retain Earl Grant.
Yeah, they've been on an odyssey of bad basketball since they got rid of Al Skinner, that's for sure, with Boston College. There's a lot of ACC programs underachieving. I mean, this time a year ago, Kevin Keats was likely fired at NC State. They went on the run they went on. Incredible. 5 wins in 5 days at the ACC tournament, 4 more wins in the NCAA tournament. It saved his job. Has it saved his job after another bad season this year? I don't know. ACC struggling.
I think Keats gets the 1 more year just because he made the Final Four, but he's obviously on a very hot seat. Before we go, TJ, our friend Tyler Jones, who was just on, he's notified us Oklahoma beats Texas. So to me, stick a fork in Rodney Terry. That is it. It is over. It is over for Rodney Terry.
I don't know that Oklahoma is necessarily in automatically here. Again, it's a debate between them and Arkansas and Indiana and Xavier and the other.
I would tell Oklahoma win a game next week at the SEC tournament. But Rodney Terry, stick the fork in Rodney Terry. Dunzo.
They owe him like $14 or $15 million though.
They can pony up at Texas.
Stay tuned. Stay tuned on all of that. Stay tuned for this guy, TrojansWire.com, the USA Today website. They're recapping the UCLA win over USC tonight in men's. Now, less than 24 hours from now, it's UCLA women's part 3 for the Big Ten title in the NCAA tournament. CollegeWire.com as well for all the college hoops. My friend, I love it. Thank you for hanging with me. Matt Zimick on a Saturday night. We appreciate it.
Happy birthday, TJ.
Thank you, my friend. We love it. I do still have the Memphis hat on. I keep getting the birthday wishes. By the way, in the gift-giving spirit, what about our friends at TicketSmarter and the TicketSmarter mobile app? Go to TicketSmarter right now for an opportunity to save $20 off of any ticket order $300 or more. This is good for the NCAA tournament, but it's also good for championship week. Big Ten tournament in Indianapolis that we were just talking about for the men. SEC tournament Nashville. My Lord, are those tickets going to be tough. Big East tournament with St. John's. We're going to talk more about them in a second. Go to TicketSmarter, their mobile app. It'll take you less than 2 minutes to sign up, purchase your tickets. Your purchase is safe and secure. They have the best pricing on the secondary market at TicketSmarter. And again, the promo code COAST20 takes $20 off your order of $300 or more. You're not going to get into that Big 12 tournament in Kansas City for the biggest games for less than $300 for a couple of seats. The best seats at Madison Square Garden, are you kidding me? They're going to probably be $500-$700 a pop in the lower level. Take $20 off your order. COAST20 at TicketSmarter and the Ticket Smarter mobile app. Think smarter, get in the game with Ticket Smarter. And remember our promo code. That is Coast20. They're from Ticket Smarter, and we show you that again up on the screen, the Ticket Smarter mobile app and ticketsmarter.com to go to all the games, the NCAA Tournament opening round games through the Sweet 16 and the Final Four in San Antonio. Remember Ticket Smarter, the Ticket Smarter mobile app, promo code COAST20 takes $20 off your order of $300 or more. Speaking of the Garden, how crazy is it going to be next week with St. John's winning today in overtime? Last second shot over Marquette. They're the outright Big East champs. They're the number 1 seed. They will duke it out with Creighton and UConn and Marquette and Xavier and everybody else in the Big East tournament. The beasts of the Big East, St. John's. What a story. Rick Pitino's second year is the first outright Big East title for St. John's since 1985. Chris Mullen, Mark Jackson, Walter Berry playing for Lou Carnesecca. That's the last. They went to the Final Four that year as well. That's the last outright title for the Big East for St. John's. So congrats to them. Did we leave anything else out? We mentioned that Missouri Valley final earlier with Tyler that's coming up on Sunday. Stand by again for Duke and Bradley battling there. By the way, tonight, Southeast Missouri State and Southern Illinois are battling for the Ohio Valley Conference title and the automatic bid. That's the first spot for an automatic bid. Several more automatic bids will be going out on Sunday and Monday. We'll be recapping all of it here in the coming weeks. But Drake Bradley will be very interesting. Is Drake an at-large team if they don't win that game? They've had a 28-win season. They split with Bradley in the regular season. Stay tuned for Drake Bradley the third, the trilogy on Sunday afternoon on CBS for the Missouri Valley Championship and the automatic bid. Stand by for that. With that, yes, did Kansas come to life for the Big 12 tournament? Stay tuned on that as well. What else? Anything else? Big 10 on Sunday once again, Michigan State. Keep an eye on them trying to make a run for a number 1 seed. Michigan State and Michigan in East Lansing. After the Michigan State win in Ann Arbor back a couple of weeks ago, all Michigan State has done down the stretch of the season is beat Michigan at Michigan and beat Wisconsin at Wisconsin, beat Illinois at Illinois. Now they got a chance to sweep Michigan, and if they roll through the Big Ten tournament in Indianapolis, where they're going to have to beat the likes of Illinois, Purdue, Wisconsin, Michigan, a couple of them, again, maybe Indiana, etc., Michigan State may have a very strong argument to be a number 1 seed at the end here of things. Auburn and Duke, yes. Houston probably as a 1 seed. Can Michigan State slide in instead of like an Alabama, Tennessee, or Florida if Alabama, Tennessee, Florida do not win the SEC tournament and Michigan State does win their tournament? Stay tuned for that. But again, Michigan State Sunday afternoon as well. And then we get ready for the Big Ten tournament in Indianapolis. Other than that, I think we're good on the Saturday night results of everything that has transpired and taken place. Craziness. Did I leave anything else out? That Florida team could be dangerous for the Final Four. They bopped Ole Miss tonight. Walter Clayton, Elijah Martin as the 1-2 punches with the guards shooting the ball. They've got a lot of postseason experience. Clayton was with the Iona team that won the Metro Atlantic tournament 2 years ago. Now at Florida's an outstanding scorer. Elijah Martin was at Florida Atlantic FAU when they ran all the way to the Final Four, Florida Atlantic 2 years ago. So they've got an experienced backcourt, big guys that can score. Florida looked tremendous tonight in a 90-71 beating of Ole Miss in that game. Clemson is another under-the-radar team. Watch out for Clemson maybe to make some noise. They got all the way to the Elite Eight last year before Alabama beat them. Several pieces on that team are back. Crazy day in college basketball. And my thanks to Tyler Jones for helping me talk about it earlier. Also, thank you to Matt Zimick. Follow Tyler at Tyler Jones Live. Follow Matt Zimick at Matt Zimick, Zemek, and the TrojansWire.com website. Follow this show and all of the shows at CBB Coast to Coast. That's CBB Coast to Coast on the College Basketball Coast to Coast Twitter handle. Also on YouTube, the same way. Find us at College Basketball Coast to Coast on the social media platforms. The show on Facebook tonight as well, and is a podcast wherever you get podcasts: Apple, Spreaker, Spotify. College Basketball Coast to Coast. 2 more plugs, by the way. Those plugs would be to check out College Basketball Coast to Coast, the channel on TuneIn. Jason Powers, my wingman, and I will call the Horizon League Championship game Tuesday night from Indianapolis, speaking for Indy. That is Youngstown State, Robert Morris, Cleveland State, and Oakland in the semifinals Monday night. The winners play Tuesday night. Jason and I will have the live call, 7 Eastern time. Look for the College Basketball Coast to Coast channel on TuneIn for free on the mobile app. Hear it digitally, tunein.com. Hear that game on Tuesday night. We look forward to being with you for that. And then next Saturday, the Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference Tournament Championship. This is Niagara, Quinnipiac, Marist, those smaller schools in the Northeast, Iona, St. Peter's. Remember, St. Peter's had a run into the NCAA tournament a couple of years ago with upsets of Kentucky and Purdue coming out of the MAAC, the MAC. That tournament in Atlantic City next Saturday night. Mike Gill, Jason Powers, and I will be on the call next Saturday night, 1 week from tonight, in Atlantic City on the TuneIn College Basketball Coast to Coast channel. Cannot wait for that as well. For now, I believe that we are good. We got a few more comments. My buddy Travis says, yes. Travis, shout out to you. Yes, the Florida Gators look the part to be a number 1 seed. How deep will they go? Another buddy, Steve Carney, watching tonight. Hello, Steve. Says, yes, USF getting thumped South Florida by Memphis last night. The Tigers look good, brother Carney. Tyler Jones weighs back in and says he thinks it's done. Rodney Terry will be out at Texas. What about your guy, Bill Self, though, at Kansas? Does he hang in there? Could be some openings. Indiana's already open. Could be some other openings, too. Anyway, we talked about it a bunch tonight on College Basketball Coast to Coast. I'm merely TJ Reeves. Thank you for finding us on the platforms. Thank you, Tyler. Thank you, Matt, for hanging out on this edition live and in podcast form of College Basketball Coast to Coast.